I would like to put a warning up top here, and it is a very sincere warning, that what I am going to talk about today is some pretty heavy stuff. And honestly, it may not be suitable for ASMR, but it is stuff that's on my mind, and it might be helpful to get it out and to communicate to the rest of you. So I would like to be very, very, very clear at the top here that I am going to talk about past trauma, and so this is a trigger warning. I do not want to upset anyone more than they are already upset, and this is already, I know a lot of us are already in a very sensitive, very emotional place right now, so I am doing this to communicate and to get stuff off my chest and to reach out. But I'm not doing this. I do not want to aggravate or upset anyone more than they already are. One of my favorite musical artists is the tallest man on earth. And when I'm feeling particularly low, the opening line of his Criminals track plays in my head. Well, there were days when you thought you would just go under. The lyrics of the rest of the song are actually more uplifting. It's an ode to nostalgia and youthful indiscretions, something I'm clearly partial to. And it shouts out the age of 17 in particular, which was a big year for me. Year I lost my virginity, year I truly found a home in my theater group. But the mood of the song is reflective, and though it reminisces on the misfits of a reeling tribe, it does begin with that depressing admission. There were days when you thought you would just go under. I'm writing this on the morning of November 6th, 2024, and I am fearful of what the future brings. Maybe you are too. But maybe you're listening to this in the days, weeks, or years after that. Because whatever you're going through is frightening. One of the most difficult things to accept, I think, about this life is that sometimes things aren't okay. Sometimes, sadly, things aren't going to be okay. That is a very privileged statement, given the long history of the human race. Place yourself back in most years and most lands prior to modern medicine and democracy, and people would scoff at you for saying something so trite. When did you think it was going to be okay? They would say. My entire family was sold into slavery when Caesar marched into Gaul, and I haven't slept in a bed once in my lifetime. My lover caught cholera drinking from our local well, and I work in a factory every hour of my waking life with no hope of advancement or retirement. Historically, things haven't been okay. And yet, we can't fall into the trap of believing human existence has generally been a misery. For if that were true, none of us would be here. The instinct to survive, despite all obstacles and hardships, is a mighty one. But it would not prevail if we could not find solace in each other. In little moments, in little pockets of joy, here and there. I say this to remind you that hope helps. I say this to acknowledge that goodness is not gone, that while might often makes right, empathy remains. The sun also rises. We place a great premium on feeling good in America. Probably in most places, but I can only speak to my native land. We want to be the shiny, happy people we see in prescription drug ads and music videos for country songs. You know, when they're driving through the cornfield singing about bare feet and scarecrows and their pickup truck full of jean shorts. That premium becomes a problem when it turns into an obligation. When you don't feel all right, and you're made to feel that that makes you lesser or broken. When your already hurting psyche takes on a second burden. You not only feel bad, but you feel bad for feeling bad. Normalize feeling bad. Feeling bad is honest. And there is nothing bad or broken about feeling bad. All of us feel that way. Sometimes for a long time. Pain sucks. Physical, mental, and emotional. They all take their toll. They all drain. And you shouldn't have to take on the additional strain of pretending they don't. My father died when I was 5 years old, a few weeks before my 6th birthday. He had been dying for a long time, what felt like a long time to me. In reality, it was a little more than a year. He had glioblastoma, a very aggressive form of brain cancer. And over the course of time, he went from a wonderful, funny, loving father to a shell of a person. First, he couldn't remember things, then he couldn't speak, then he couldn't walk. He would have seizures. He was incontinent. My brother and my sister don't remember a lot of this time because they were very young. I remember it vividly. I remember waking up one morning to my mother sobbing in the bathroom, trying to clean him, because he'd been sick, and shit all over their bedroom. It was horrific. To see somebody you love being taken away from you piece by piece is the worst form of torture that I know of. And that is how I grew up. Watching not only my father die slowly, but my mother lose the man she loved and her sanity. The worst episode in a series of very unpleasant memories was the night when my mother lost it. I remember sitting with my father in the kitchen, and they had some argument. I don't think he was really able to have the argument, but my mother was at the very limit of her patience. She was done. She didn't have any more in her. She screamed. She cried. Then she took my baby sister, and she went into the garage, and she put her in her car seat, and she got in the driver's side, and she was ready to leave. All of us. My brother, my father, and me. And I was 5 years old, sitting in the kitchen, looking at my father, who was unable to process what was happening or to stand up. And my mother started screaming in the car because it was just too much. And that was very scary. Looking back now, as a father, as a husband, I know what a terrible burden she was under, and I am amazed that she did not crack completely. As a child, I felt utterly betrayed and lost and confused and very, very sad. Much of how I am as a father today is informed by what I feared and lacked in my childhood. But my mother did the absolute best that she could. We all have our breaking points, and it is not weakness to accept that. Shirley Jackson wrote one of the best opening lines of a story, possibly ever, in the very first passage for The Haunting of Hill House. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Graham Greene wrote one of the best closing or near closing lines in the final chapter of Brighton Rock. You cannot conceive, nor can I, of the appalling strangeness of the mercy of God. Sometimes things aren't okay. Sometimes life hurts. Sometimes the best we can hope for is that after we go crazy, we will go sane again. There is a silver lining to all of this. Love exists. Kindness exists. And we can give these things to each other anytime. It is hard to live. But the beauty of this fragile life we lead is that we can share it with each other if we are willing to open our hands. Things aren't okay. But you don't have to accept that in solitude. Be willing to love. Be willing to share. Be willing to accept that the sun also rises. You have one life, and it can be taken from you at any time. Love while you are here. Give that love and take that love because it prevails so much longer than cruelty and pain. Do you know how I know that? Because we keep making babies. And any mother will tell you, that hurts like hell. But then you look into the faces of your children, and what's left? Love is left. Good night.